Men, here's the brutal truth. Every date you go on isn't just casual conversation and getting to know each other. It's a sophisticated evaluation process where she's running tests to determine whether you're worth her time, emotional investment, and future commitment. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever failed one of these tests and only realized it later when she ghosted you or lost interest. Test 1. The interruption test, how you handle disruptions. When something interrupts your date, a phone call, a friend stopping by her table, the waiter getting your order wrong, or unexpected delays, she's not just dealing with random inconvenience. She's carefully watching how you handle disruption to assess your emotional stability, leadership capacity, and whether you'll become controlling or unstable when life doesn't go according to plan. What this test reveals. This reveals your emotional regulation under pressure and whether you're secure enough to handle life's unpredictability without becoming stressed, angry, or blaming. Women need to know if you'll be stable during actual relationship challenges or if you'll crumble when things don't go perfectly. Notice how you respond when she takes a phone call during dinner. Do you become visibly annoyed, make passive-aggressive comments, or silently sulk? She's testing whether you respect her autonomy and can handle not being her sole focus every second, or whether you'll become controlling and demanding of constant attention. Pay attention to your reaction when plans change unexpectedly. If the restaurant is closed, the movie is sold out, or she's running late, do you adapt smoothly and suggest alternatives, or do you become frustrated and let the disruption ruin your mood? She's evaluating whether you're resourceful and emotionally resilient or rigid and easily destabilized. Watch how you treat service staff when something goes wrong. If your order is incorrect or service is slow, do you handle it with patience and respect, or do you become rude and demanding? She's assessing your character by how you treat people who can't benefit you, because eventually, that's how you'll treat her when the honeymoon phase ends. You're revealing whether you're genuinely confident and secure, or whether you need perfect conditions to maintain composure. Secure men handle disruptions smoothly because their emotional state isn't dependent on external circumstances. Insecure men fall apart when challenged because they lack internal stability. Notice if you try to control situations to prevent disruptions. If you're overly rigid about plans, get anxious about spontaneity, or try to control every variable, she's seeing someone who needs control to feel safe, which predicts controlling behavior in relationships. The psychological dynamic. Interruptions reveal authentic personality that polished date behavior conceals. When things go according to plan, anyone can appear calm and pleasant. Disruptions create stress that reveals true character. How you handle stress on a date predicts how you'll handle relationship conflicts, family emergencies, and life challenges. Women test interruption response because relationships involve constant disruption. Children get sick, careers have setbacks, families have drama. She needs a partner who remains stable through chaos rather than someone who needs perfect conditions to function. Your response to interruptions also reveals respect levels. Men who become angry when she takes a necessary phone call or talks to someone she knows are revealing possessive tendencies and lack of respect for her autonomy. She's identifying these red flags early. Test 2. The opinion challenge. How you handle disagreement. When she expresses an opinion that contradicts yours or challenges something you've said, she's not randomly being disagreeable or testing whether you'll argue. She's deliberately creating ideological friction to assess whether you can handle a woman who thinks independently, whether you respect differing perspectives, and whether disagreement threatens your ego. What this test reveals. This reveals whether you're secure enough to be with a woman who has her own mind and opinions, or whether you need agreement and validation to feel masculine and in control. Women who are confident and intelligent deliberately test this because they won't tolerate partners who require constant agreement. Notice how you respond when she disagrees with your movie recommendation, political view, or assessment of a situation. Do you become defensive, try to prove she's wrong, or dismiss her perspective as invalid. She's testing whether you can handle a partnership of equals or whether you need to be right and superior. Pay attention to whether you listen to understand or listen to refute. When she explains her different perspective, are you genuinely considering her viewpoint, or are you just waiting for your turn to explain why she's wrong? She's evaluating whether you respect her intelligence and autonomy. Watch whether you try to change her mind or accept the difference. If she says she doesn't like something you love, do you spend the next 20 minutes trying to convince her she's wrong? Or do you accept that people have different preferences? She's assessing whether you respect her as a separate person or see her as an extension of yourself who should share all your opinions. You're revealing your ego fragility and respect for women's autonomy. Secure men can handle disagreement without feeling threatened because their self-worth isn't dependent on being right or having their opinions validated. Insecure men need agreement because disagreement feels like rejection or challenge to their authority. Notice if you become condescending when explaining why she's wrong. If you talk down to her, dismiss her reasoning, or imply she doesn't understand the topic, she's seeing disrespect and arrogance that predict how you'll treat her throughout a relationship. The psychological dynamic. Opinion challenges reveal whether you can handle a partnership with an independent woman or whether you need a submissive partner who defers to you. Women who challenge your opinions are testing for mutual respect. They're determining whether you see them as intellectual equals or as people who should agree with and admire you. Disagreement tolerance predicts relationship satisfaction. Couples who can disagree respectfully have healthier relationships than couples where one partner suppresses opinions to avoid conflict. She's testing whether you can handle healthy disagreement or whether differing opinions threaten you. Your response also reveals deeper attitudes toward women. Men who become defensive or dismissive when women disagree often hold subconscious beliefs that women's opinions matter less than men's. She's identifying these attitudes before becoming emotionally invested. Test 3. The silence test. How you handle conversational gaps. When conversation naturally pauses and silence settles between you, she's not awkwardly failing to keep conversation going. She's deliberately allowing silence to assess whether you're comfortable with natural rhythm and presence, or whether you're so anxious and insecure that you need constant talking to manage discomfort. What this test reveals? This reveals your security and presence. Comfortable silence indicates you're genuinely present and don't need constant stimulation or validation through talking. Anxious gap filling indicates you're uncomfortable with authentic presence and need constant activity to manage anxiety. Notice how you respond when conversation pauses. Do you immediately rush to fill the silence with random talking, anxious questions, or nervous jokes? She's testing whether you're secure enough to simply be present without needing constant verbal performance. Pay attention to whether you can maintain eye contact during silence or whether you look away uncomfortably. Silence with maintained presence and eye contact creates intimacy and connection. Silence with avoidance and discomfort reveals inability to handle intimacy. Watch whether silence makes you self-conscious. If you start second-guessing yourself, wondering if she's bored, or worrying that silence means the date is failing, she's seeing insecurity and need for external validation. Secure men know that comfortable silence indicates good connection, not failed conversation. You're revealing whether you're comfortable in your own skin or whether you need constant external stimulation to feel okay. Women want partners who can simply be present rather than partners who need constant entertainment and validation. Notice if you make the silence about yourself. If you assume silence means she's not interested in you, rather than recognizing it as natural conversational rhythm, she's seeing someone who makes everything about their own validation needs, rather than someone who can read social situations accurately. The psychological dynamic. Silence tolerance reveals authentic confidence versus performed confidence. Men who appear confident but can't handle conversational silence are revealing that their confidence is external performance rather than internal security. Men who are comfortable with silence demonstrate genuine self-possession. Women test silence because relationships involve significant time simply being together without constant conversation. She needs to know if you can be present during quiet morning coffee, comfortable drives, or relaxed evenings without needing constant engagement to feel secure. Silence also reveals listening capacity. Men who rush to fill every gap are often more interested in performing and impressing than in actually connecting. She's testing whether you're present with her or whether you're performing for her validation. Test 4. The status challenge. How you react to her success or authority. When she mentions her professional success, graduate degree, high income, or position of authority, she's not bragging or trying to compete with you. She's testing whether you're secure enough to celebrate her success or whether her achievements threaten your masculinity and trigger competition or diminishment. What this test reveals. This reveals whether you're genuinely secure or whether your confidence is fragile and dependent on being superior to your partner. Women with ambition and success deliberately test this because they need partners who support rather than undermine their achievements. Notice your immediate reaction when she mentions impressive accomplishments. Do you genuinely congratulate and ask interested questions, or do you immediately one-up her with your own achievements, downplay hers, or change the subject? She's testing whether you can handle dating an accomplished woman. Pay attention to whether you become competitive. If she mentions her promotion and you immediately talk about your career progression to reassert status, she's seeing someone whose ego requires being superior. Secure men celebrate partners' success without needing to compete. Watch whether you subtly diminish her achievements. If you say things like, "That's great, though in your field that's probably expected," or "impressive, but the real challenge is," you're revealing that her success threatens you. She's identifying this fragility before committing. You're revealing your actual attitude towards successful women. Many men claim they want ambitious partners, but become uncomfortable or competitive when faced with women who match or exceed their status. She's testing whether your stated preferences match your actual tolerance. Notice if you seem uncomfortable with or challenged by her authority. If she mentions managing a large team or making significant decisions, do you respect that authority or do you subtly question it, offer unsolicited advice, or imply you could do better? She's seeing whether you respect female authority. The psychological dynamic. Status challenges reveal fragile versus genuine masculinity. Genuinely confident men aren't threatened by accomplished women because their self-worth isn't comparative. Fragile men need to be superior to women to feel masculine, which predicts undermining and competitive relationship dynamics. Women test this because partnership with fragile men becomes exhausting. If she has to downplay achievements to protect your ego or endure competition instead of support, the relationship becomes burden rather than partnership. She's screening for this pattern early. Your response also predicts long-term support. If you can't celebrate her success on a first date, you won't support her career growth, educational pursuits, or personal development during a relationship. She's testing whether you'll be genuine partner or obstacle to her growth. Test 5. The vulnerability test. How you handle her, opening up when she shares something personal, admits a weakness, or reveals something she's struggled with. She's not randomly oversharing or trauma dumping. She's strategically revealing vulnerability to assess whether you respond with empathy and respect, or whether you judge, dismiss, or later use that vulnerability to manipulate or control her. What this test reveals. This reveals your emotional intelligence, capacity for empathy, and trustworthiness with intimate information. Women need partners who can handle vulnerability with maturity rather than men who judge weakness or weaponize disclosed information. Notice how you respond when she admits something difficult. Do you listen with genuine empathy and validate her experience, or do you minimize it, offer unsolicited solutions, or change to a lighter topic because her emotion makes you uncomfortable? She's testing your emotional availability. Pay attention to whether you respect the intimacy of what she's shared. If she reveals something personal and you make a joke about it, tell others, or reference it dismissively later, She's seeing someone who can't be trusted with vulnerability. Secure men treat disclosed vulnerability with appropriate respect. Watch whether you use vulnerability against her. If she admits insecurity about something, and you later make comments that target that insecurity, she's seeing manipulative tendencies. She's testing whether vulnerability creates safety or creates ammunition for future manipulation. You're revealing whether you can handle the emotional reality of actual relationships. Relationships require emotional vulnerability from both partners. If you can't handle her vulnerability without judgment or discomfort, she knows emotional intimacy with you will be impossible. Notice if you respond with immediate problem-solving rather than empathy. If she shares something difficult and you immediately jump to fixing it without first acknowledging her feelings, she's seeing someone who's uncomfortable with emotion and can't provide emotional support she'll need. The psychological dynamic. Vulnerability tests reveal emotional safety. Women are evaluating whether revealing their full selves, including struggles, fears, and imperfections, will be met with acceptance or judgment. Your response determines whether she can be authentic with you or whether she'll need to maintain a perfect facade. The test also reveals manipulation risk. Some men collect vulnerable information to later use for control, guilt-tripping, or emotional abuse. She's testing whether vulnerability creates deeper connection or creates risk. Your handling of vulnerability predicts relationship depth. Couples who can be mutually vulnerable have deeper, more satisfying relationships. If you can't handle vulnerability, the relationship will remain superficial because she'll never feel safe being fully herself with you. Test 6, the boundary test, how you respond to no. When she declines something, whether it's a second drink, a particular activity, physical escalation, or coming back to your place, she's not playing hard to get or testing whether you'll persist. She's directly testing whether you respect boundaries and accept her autonomy, or whether you'll pressure, manipulate, or become resentful when she exercises choice. What this test reveals. This reveals respect for consent and women's autonomy at the most fundamental level. Women test boundary respect because men who can't handle no in low-stakes situations become coercive and dangerous in high-stakes situations. Notice your immediate reaction when she declines something. Do you accept it gracefully and move forward, or do you ask why, try to convince her, or become cold and distant? She's testing whether you respect her autonomy or whether you see her boundaries as obstacles to overcome. Pay attention to whether you take no personally. If she doesn't want another drink or wants to end the date earlier than you hoped, do you understand it's her preference, or do you interpret it as rejection and become visibly disappointed or resentful? She's assessing whether you can handle normal boundaries without emotional manipulation. Watch whether you try to negotiate or pressure after she's declined. If you keep suggesting alternatives, asking, "Are you sure?" or implying she's being unreasonable, she's seeing someone who doesn't respect consent. Respectful men accept the first no without requiring explanation or negotiation. You're revealing your deeper attitudes toward women's autonomy and consent. Men who can't handle small boundary setting without pressure or resentment are revealing patterns that predict coercive and controlling behavior in relationships. Notice if you become passive-aggressive or punishing after she sets boundaries. If the energy shifts, you become less engaged, or you make comments implying she's being difficult, she's seeing manipulation tactics and emotional punishment for exercising autonomy. The psychological dynamic. Boundary tests reveal respect versus entitlement. Respectful men understand women have autonomy and accept their choices without pressure. Entitled men believe they've earned something by investing time or money, and boundary setting triggers resentment because it challenges their entitlement. Women test boundaries because coercion patterns emerge early. Men who pressure small boundaries will pressure major boundaries. Men who can't handle no thanks to dessert can't handle no to unwanted sexual contact. She's identifying dangerous patterns before they escalate. Your response also predicts relationship safety. Relationships require constant boundary negotiation about time, space, bodies, decisions, and more. If you can't handle boundaries gracefully, she knows relationship with you will involve constant pressure and manipulation rather than mutual respect.